In this video, we will have a look at a method which is part of the function tools, which is called the reduce function. Now, the reduce function is able to reduce elements or items or values, you can call them elements, items or values, within an iterable, such as a list, tuple, dictionary, to a single cumulative value. And the way it works, it performs a process starting on the left of the iterable. So let's say the iterable is a list, it will start on the left of the list on the first two elements or items. And it does its process, whatever the process is. In this case, it's adding them together, and it repeats the same process until there is only one value left or item left. And then the result is returned and printed to the console. And here is the syntax. So the syntax is reduce, open and close parenthesis, and then we can pass three arguments inside it. The first two are required, which is the function, the process we are going to perform, and then the iterable we are going to perform the function on. So the iterable we are referring to. And the third is optional, and this is called initial, or it can be called the initializer. And the initializer is placed before the items of the iterable in the calculation and serves as a default value when the iterable is empty. And as we can see in the example, as the reduce method is part of the function tools module, I have to import it in. So we've got import func tools. So we have imported the function tool module, or we could have just imported the reduce method from function tools. That will work as well. And then next we have my underscore list, and it equals lots of characters. So characters in my list, and we can see each character is its own element or item in the iterable. And we can see this by the apostrophe used at the beginning and end of the character. So each character has an apostrophe at the beginning and then at the end, and then a comma, and then it's the next character and so on. So this is its own element or item. Now we have got the main line of code, and we're storing it inside a variable called my underscore single underscore item. And then this equals functools dot the reduce method. And inside the reduce method, I've got two arguments. So we've got a lambda function. So function, what we do, a process. And in this function, we've got two values, a and b, and we are adding a and b together. And then we are doing this on an iterable, which is called my underscore list, which is the list above. And finally, we are printing the result to the screen, my underscore single underscore item, and we can see the output. So the output is characters in my string, and this is a single value. So we have reduced it to a single value. So let's have a look at how this works in PyCharm. Now, to give an example, I did a separate video. This was part of list comprehension, where I added some characters to a list using a for loop. So I did a for loop. Let's paste the for loop inside here. So I have a list called my underscore list, and I've got some elements inside here. We can see 1, 2, 3, and then these are the new. And then I've got my for loop. So for my appending list, include, and then it's include these characters in my list. And what we are going to do with these characters is part of the next line. So my underscore list, which is my underscore list here, we are going to use the dot append method to append my underscore app underscore list, which is this one here. So we are appending these characters in my list to my list over here. And then we are printing my underscore list. So if we run the file here, we can see my list. And we can see at the beginning is 1, 2, 3. These are the new, which is my current list over here. My underscore list, 1, 2, 3. These are the new. But then we see characters in my list, and we can see these are all their own elements, because we can see the apostrophe at the beginning, at the end, separated by a comma. Or just to remove the initial part, 1, 2, 3, these are the new. Let's start off with an empty list. So what do we do with the characters in the list? To reduce them to a single value. So there's multiple methods of doing this, but one is to use the reduce function. So each character was added as a separate value or item, but we want to reduce it to a single value. So what we can do to begin with is import our function tools. So because the reduce function is part of the function tools module, we will import the func tools module. Next, we will paste in my list. So we can see my list, and we can see each item or element is separated by these apostrophes, separated by a comma. So we can see everything is a separate element. We want to reduce it to a single value. So here's my main bit of code, and we will store it inside a variable called my underscore single underscore item equals functools.reduce. And we can see the three arguments here. So we need to pass in the function and then the sequence. And then this is optional, which is the initialize parameter. So we are going to use a lambda function inside here, and we are going to perform this function on two values a and b. So what we are going to do with them is we are going to add a plus b, and then we are going to perform this on my iterable, which is my underscore list. And next we will print the result my underscore single underscore item. Let's run the file, and we can see characters in my list as a single element. So as already mentioned, it performs this starting from the left hand side on the first two elements a plus b. So it adds c to h, and when it's done this, it repeats the process again. So c and h become one value, and then when it repeats the process, this time it adds c and h to a, and then it repeats the process again until eventually the result is a single value, characters in my list. So looking at the third optional parameter, I'm going to undo my changes so my underscore list is back to the original format. So the third parameter is the initialize parameter, and let's type in anything for sake of argument just to have a look at how this works. So this is an optional parameter, which is the initialize parameter, and the initializer is placed before the items of the iterable in the calculation and serves as a default when the iterable is empty. So now we've got an element called hello in there. This should be placed at the beginning of the result. So let's run the file, and we can see it's placed at the beginning, hello. Maybe we need a space in there as well, and let's run it again. Or hello, these are the, and run it again. So hello, these are the characters in my list. And of course, if we don't have anything in my list, let's remove everything and run the file again. And as we can see, if the list was empty, it will still run and the initialized value will be present in my list. And that's it for this video. That's a high level overview of the reduce function, which is part of the function tools module to reduce items in an iterable to a single value.